of his his homegoing ceremony. Okay, TMZ did have a video of the sons leaving and entering the courtroom today. This is a video of the sons.
Good spirits, Justin, King Combs. King, how you doing this morning? How's it going, Justin? Quincy, how you feeling this morning? How the twins?
As you can see, they walked out pretty much from youngest to oldest, right? You seen Christian, then you shortly seen Prince, or they call him Prince. His name is Prince JDC on Instagram, but that's Justin Combs right here, and also Quincy Combs. Now, remember I also speculated last night, will any of the sons be possibly indicted? Well, it's clear at this point they're not indicted, and it doesn't mean that they won't, but they're at least free men to go and watch their father's initial appearance, right? We did get a lot more information, and I'll play that next. Again, we have the full indictment. We're going to get into it. It's about 15 minutes until we hear from the U.S. Attorney. I'm going to try to save my voice as long as possible because we're probably going to be, this is probably like a marathon day, so I'm probably locking in for, if I could last, pause, maybe 10 hours. So we might be doing a 10-hour stream. Okay. So first and foremost, again, his sons are free. They showed up to this initial appearance. His lawyer spoke, though. I'm going to be honest with you. His lawyer was super transparent. Not even too sure why he would need to be that transparent with the media, but essentially admitted that, hey, Diddy moved to New York because of a coordinated effort, knowing that these charges were coming down probably soon. And they even discussed with the U.S. Attorney Office to say, hey, we're down to turn ourselves in. We're going to work with y'all. And obviously, these are signs of good faith actions that are going to play in part to a, what do you call it again? To a bail hearing. We don't know about the bail application status at this point. We're probably going to hear about that. Okay? Chat, I'm not talking about Diddy for 10 hours, but what I'm saying is that, like, we're probably going to give this 4 or 5 hours. Okay? But then I'm going to still try to do a regular stream. We kind of did that last night too, okay? This is obviously a breaking news. We've covered so much around it. Makes no sense we half-ass this when it actually happens, okay? Also for the people who, like, again, I want to see justice get served. I'm indifferent to whatever, thoughts you guys might have, whether you think I'm against Diddy or pro-Diddy. I'm just reporting what I see. I'm going to try to very much keep what I've heard about him or my experience with him out of it. Because again, it doesn't fucking matter. Once we are at the point where we're now in a court proceeding, it's going to be what could be proven, right? Obviously there's victims all over the place, but now we get to see it in a court of law. All right. So yes, so this is noticeably, which you could imagine, there's no more smiles. They were dancing, doing all the shenanigans in the last couple of weeks. And I'm wondering how that conversation is. So I'm guessing Diddy must have told his sons, check this out. I'm probably going to get taken in. Hopefully I get bail. I'm still trying to listen to my lawyers by acting like, everything's good. I'm not panicking. Let's all go to New York until whenever I got to turn myself in, and let's try to be normal, right? Because all of them have been in New York. Like, Quincy, like I think Quincy lives on the West Coast, but he was in New York. Here's what the lawyer says. Right, so this is Diddy's lawyer. His name is Mark Agnifilo, or am I saying it wrong? Mark Agnifilo. Okay, I think I got that correct. Now, importantly, last night, he made some comments even before he got to court. Hold on. He had made a comment even before he got to court. Give me a second. Yeah. Which, again, this lawyer is pretty, transparent with the public, which I don't think he needs to be. Like, his only concern is clearly Diddy. By the way, the U.S. Attorney's name is Damian Williams. But he did say this. This is last night before he got to court, right? He put out a statement. He says, he gave a statement to TMZ. I'm always weary about lawyers who are trying to talk to the press before talking to the prosecutors. That's a problem. But you know Diddy's getting the best of the best. He's not getting some run-of-the-mill. He's not getting Max B's lawyer. No disrespect to that dude. So we are disappointed with the decision to pursue what we believe is an unjust prosecution of Mr. Combs by the U.S. Attorney's Office. Sean Diddy Combs is a music icon, self-made entrepreneur, loving family man, and a proven philanthropist who spent the last 30 years building an empire, adoring his children, and working to uplift the black community. He also added, he's an imperfect person, but not a criminal. To his credit, Diddy has been nothing but cooperative. That's going to be very important with this investigation, and he voluntarily relocated to New York last week in anticipation of these charges. Please reserve your judgment until you have all the facts. These are acts of an innocent man with nothing to hide, and he looks forward to clearing his name in court. I will say, everything he's doing, like on a optic level, obviously him addressing that Cassie video, like the Cassie video, you're guilty, my nigga. Like there's no presumption of innocence there. But all of his other actions do seem cooperative and do seem like he's trying to face these charges, right? Again, I won't say it means he's clearly innocent, but clearly, he's not trying to run, duck, hide, or, blatantly going on a PR campaign trying to, convince people that he's innocent. Look like he's trying to have his day in court. Here's a lawyer, and the lawyer spoke this morning before going into court.
That planned? No, it's not planned. Certainly, it's not planned by us. He came here to surrender at a time agreeable to the U.S. Attorney's Office, and then they arrested him last night. I spent the evening with him. I was with him until about 1 o'clock. His spirits are good. He's confident. He is dealing with this head on, the way he's dealt with every challenge in his life, and he's not guilty. He's innocent of these charges. We know what the charges are going to be. Without seeing the indictment, it's going to be racketeering, it's going to be sex trafficking, it's going to be things along those lines. This is what we've been expecting since the searches in March. He, to his great credit, he voluntarily came to New York. Not a lot of defendants do that. He came to New York to basically engage the court system and start the case, and it'll start today. And he's going to plead not guilty, obviously. He's going to fight this with all of his energy and all of his might and the full confidence of his lawyers. And I expect a long battle with a good result for Mr. Combs.
Do you think he'll be released?
I'm going to fight like hell to get him released, and he should be released with all that he's done and coming here voluntarily. And guys, I'm going to cut it short because I have to go in. All right. So thank you all very much. And
all right. So the lawyer, and I would imagine that the lawyer is speaking to the public, putting out a statement via TMZ. If you're wondering why my voice sounds like that, seeing someone in the chat say it, losing my voice a little bit. Again, it's been like a couple of days of like kind of like a little bit sick, but powering through it nonetheless. It's okay, no days off. So I apologize if my voice sounds odd or stressed at times. Okay, all right. So that was the lawyer. By the way, again, we are waiting on the press conference to start. It's scheduled to start at 11:30. This is outside the federal building, the federal courthouse in Manhattan. And here is where you see, obviously, these federal security guards and, okay, actually, yeah. Oh, so I thought it was going to be outside. It's inside. Oh, wow. Here we go. Here we go, people. Once again, I do have the indictment that I'll get into afterwards. I'll actually give you a brief preview of that on the screen now. And, again, not to give you a little bit of foreplay, no Diddy, but I'll show you some of the things that they've mentioned in there. In this indictment, they gave him racketeering, and under racketeering, they have a bunch of things, right? Obviously, they mentioned the freak-offs, but what we're going to see is, here we go. So this is how they describe the racketeering conspiracy. We're going to read through this line by line, okay? Again, we're waiting for this to start. They haven't officially started yet. Again, this is going to start in 7 minutes, supposedly. But look at these acts. These are things they're going to have to prove. Multiple acts, including kidnapping, arson, bribery, which, by the way, they're saying this is some of these things happen in different places as well. Okay, bribery, witness tampering, What else? What else? What else? Forced labor, sex trafficking. Also, another charge or another act of, the RICO statute by saying he was relating to transport and inducement to travel for purposes of prostitution and other illegal activities. Again, remember I said last night about drug charges? Yep, we got him. Drug charges, multiple offenses involving possession with intent to distribute of narcotics. They list a bunch of these substances. Some you might know, some you might not. Obviously, cocaine, oxycodone, or Oxycontin, as some people say, and some of these other drugs. I probably got to Google them, but ketamine and what the fuck is hydroxybutyric acid? Wow, that don't sound too safe. Okay, cool. Again, it doesn't name anybody else. It names that people in the organization were involved in a criminal activity, but they're not named in this indictment, in the initial indictment, and they're actually just not, indicted, at least on this case file. So maybe they get indicted on a superseding indictment, or I don't know if this is possible. I got to speak to an attorney. Maybe I'm gonna get Bradford Cohen or somebody on here who's a real expert to break it down for y'all. Shit, maybe all the people in the organization flipped on him. They already talked to the feds like, we gave this nigga up. Like, Diddy got to go. So again, we'll get into that. Another interesting thing before the proceedings start is that. Give me one second. Will we also find out the details of the raid, supposedly? Remember the raid that happened on his property back in March? They're saying they found 1,000. Like, listen to this shit right here. They said the indictment references, so I'm guessing it's in the indictment. We're going to read it eventually. References what was seized during the raids at Diddy's homes in Beverly Hills and Miami. Various freak-off supplies. Imagine having a freak-off toolkit, my nigga. This is crazy. Include narcotics, little party drugs, more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant. They seized firearms, including 3 AR-15s with the face serial numbers and a drum magazine. Yeah, that's kind of crazy, right? Wow. You know what was interesting? Nigga, they said they found the freak-off supplies. Mad drugs, mad baby oil and lubricant. We heard they didn't find one condom. How is this possible, my nigga? They found everything but the condoms. What type of shit is this? Nigga, they found 1,000 bottles of baby oil and not one lambskin latex condom. This shit is crazy. Oh, man. Watch, they're going to be like, yeah, we found mad honey packs. We found some rhino pills. We found some this. They didn't find one condom in the whole house. This is crazy. Anyway, we are waiting, chat. We're waiting. It looks like they're starting to set up. Now, here's what's interesting. I let it play.
7, 6. You just came in from the left. Are you okay? Okay. Thank you.
By the way, we see a whiteboard here. Sometimes they'll use that. Hold on. They'll use that to like map out a conspiracy. We'll see. Wow. I'll shut up, man. We'll watch it. Of course I spilled my liquor. Jesus Christ.
Oh, okay.
Here's where we're about to start. Okay, while we do wait. Oh, never mind. It looks like we're gonna start. Maybe not.
We're in New Jersey.
Okay, real quick while we wait. It's important, you know, I'm going to look this guy up as well. So Damian Williams, so he's the U.S. attorney. He's the Fonnie Willis in this case. Damian Williams, U.S. attorney. So let's look this guy up. Okay, all right, black man, I see you. All right, so we can't be like the white man trying to get Diddy down. It's definitely a black U.S. attorney. This guy right here. He's the guy who we'll see talk shortly. But he's the one who signed the bottom of the make sure I'm not listening to this. Oh shit! Never mind. Look. Oh, here they go. Here they go. Where's the baby oil? Show me the baby oil. Johnson & Johnson stock going up. Invest in Johnson & Johnson. I'm not no financial advisor, but god damn it. Oh, these were the guns. Why wouldn't Diddy just have legal guns? Apparently these were defaced. You know, a gun is illegal. As soon as you deface the serial number, it's a legal gun. You know what I'm saying? And usually it's probably not a legally obtained gun because that's why you're defacing the serial number, right?
That was fast.
I'm going to be honest with you. This isn't that shocking as it is. Diddy has a few rifles. Okay.
Conference in about 2 minutes. If you have any questions about presentment, I'll come back out and we'll go over timing and give you a few updates. Thanks.
Again, I could probably quickly, I don't want to miss anything at all. If they start talking, let me switch immediately back. Do they have weapons? I want to see if that's part of it. You know, they found weapons at the face, so they could just add it on, right? Do they have firearms? Probably sure there's going to be some firearms somewhere in this. Okay. We'll read through it. Here we go. These are rifles that have been clearly disassembled. Not too sure if this is how they found it or the feds disassembled it. But there's a drum magazine. Clearly a rifle. You can see these are 223 or 556. Oh, here we go. Here we go, Jack. Make sure you can see the whole thing. I'm not going off just this to say he's done. None of the crimes, at least that we know, did he put guns to the women's head, right? So we want to see the condoms or lack of condoms. We want to see the baby oil. We want to see the fucking the fucking stiff sheets that's just soaked in the freak off cum. Pause. Here's the U.S. attorney, as I said.
Morning, everyone. My name is Damian Williams, and I'm the U.S. attorney here in the Southern District of New York. Today I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution. The indictment alleges that between at least 2008 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. As alleged in the indictment, to carry out this conduct, Sean Combs led and participated in a racketeering conspiracy that used the business empire he controlled to carry out criminal activity, including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and the obstruction of justice. Let me say a little bit more about the charges. The indictment alleges that Combs abused and exploited women and other people for years, and in a variety of ways. As alleged, Combs used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sexual performances with male commercial sex workers, some of whom he transported or caused to be transported over state lines. Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them.
Whoa.
The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial sex workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics, such as ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant. As alleged, when Combs didn't get his way, he was violent, and he subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse so that they would participate in the freak-offs, and that Combs hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged victims, at times by their hair. On one occasion in March of 2016, that conduct was captured on video and later reported in the media. Specifically, Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a victim in a Los Angeles hotel when the victim was attempting to flee. As alleged, these assaults often resulted in injuries to the victims, which took days or weeks to heal. In addition to the violence, the indictment alleges that Combs threatened and coerced victims to get them to participate in the freak-offs.
Oh my God.
He used the embarrassing and sensitive recordings he made of the freak-offs as collateral against the victims. And the indictment alleges that he maintained control over the victims in several ways, including by giving them drugs, by giving and threatening to take away financial support or housing, by promising them career opportunities, by monitoring their whereabouts, and even by dictating their physical appearance. Because of all of this, the indictment alleges that the victims did not believe they could refuse Combs without risking their security.
They're describing Cassie a lot. They're describing Cassie a lot.
The indictment also alleges other acts of violence undertaken by Combs and others, including violence against witnesses to his abuse, kidnapping, and arson. The indictment alleges that on more than one occasion, Combs carried or brandished firearms to intimidate and threaten victims and witnesses. Now, Combs did not do this all on his own. As I mentioned, Combs has been charged with RICO conspiracy. He used his business and employees of that business and other close associates to get his way. Those individuals allegedly included high-ranking supervisors in the business, personal assistants, security staff, and household staff. The indictment alleges that those individuals facilitated the freak-offs. They booked the hotel rooms and stocked them with the supplies, including drugs, baby oil, personal lubricant, extra linens, and lighting. When the hotel rooms got damaged, they helped clean it up. They arranged for victims and commercial sex workers to travel for the freak-offs, and they delivered large quantities of cash to Combs to pay for the commercial sex workers. The indictment also alleges that they helped Combs cover up his crimes. During the March 2016 incident at the LA hotel that I mentioned earlier, a member of the hotel security staff intervened, and Combs attempted to bribe the staff member with a stack of cash to make sure that what happened was kept quiet. And as the indictment alleges, in late 2023, after public allegations were made about Combs' crimes, he and others pressured witnesses and victims to stay silent, including by making phone calls to witnesses and victims and giving them a false narrative of what they had experienced.
Oh, shit.
And as alleged, Combs used others to help conceal his abuse by monitoring and preventing victims from leaving a location in order to hide their injuries, or by locating and contacting a victim who had attempted to flee.
Sounds like Cassie.
As part of this investigation, in March of this year, special agents from HSI executed search warrants at Combs' residences in Miami and Los Angeles. They also executed a warrant for Combs' electronic devices. During those searches, agents seized evidence of the crimes charged in this indictment. They seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 defaced AR-15s and a large capacity drum magazine. They also seized evidence of the freak-offs, electronic devices that contain images and videos of the freak-offs with multiple victims. And they seized cases and cases of the kinds of personal lubricant and baby oil that Combs' staff allegedly used to stock hotel rooms for the freak-offs. more than 1,000 bottles altogether.
KY stock going up.
Here are some of the items that we recovered during the searches. As you can see here, this is a drum magazine, large capacity, and it contains, I believe, 59 rounds. I mentioned as well that we recovered 3 AR-15s. This is a close-up shot of one of the AR-15s, and you can see right here, the serial number has been thoroughly defaced. Another picture of more ammunition and parts of 2 AR-15s right there. Now, I want to be clear about 2 things. First, this office is determined to investigate and prosecute anyone who engages in sex trafficking, no matter how powerful or wealthy or famous you may be. No one should doubt our commitment on that. A year ago, Sean Combs stood in Times Square and was handed a key to New York City. Today, he's been indicted and will face justice in the Southern District of New York. Second, we are not done. This investigation is ongoing, and I encourage anyone with information about this case to come forward and to do it quickly. Anyone with information can call 1-877-4HSI-TIP. I want to express my deep appreciation for the victims and witnesses who have used their voices and helped bring this criminal conduct to light. We would not be here without them. I also want to thank the dedicated case agents on the HSI Trafficking in Person Squad in New York. They have been with us since day one and have worked tirelessly on this investigation. They will continue to be invaluable partners to us. I also want to thank the incredible agents and analysts from SCNY who have also provided tremendous assistance on this case. I'm deeply grateful for their continued work. And finally, I want to thank the outstanding career prosecutors from SCNY who are handling this case. Meredith Foster, Emily Johnson, Chrissy Slavic, Madison Smizer, and Mitzi Steiner, and their supervisors, Jamie Backleiter and Jacqueline Kelly.
Remember all those names.
They are members of the Civil Rights Unit in our criminal division.
Remember those names?
We created the Civil Rights Unit when I became U.S. Attorney. I'm deeply proud of their work on this and so many other cases. I'll now take some questions.
Eric Katursky, ABC.
Thanks, man. Damian, thanks. The indictment describes aggressive, open, violent, hedonistic.
Yo, chat. All the prosecutors are white women. Diddy's cook, chat. If these are the prosecutors, Diddy's fucking fried.
How many women were victimized by Sean Combs?
All white women.
How many others were involved?
Look, our investigation is ongoing. We are committed to bringing justice to everyone who's been victimized by the defendant. I can't tell you why it took so long. I think the better focus is on the fact that we are here today. And we are committed to making sure that justice is done. Next question.
Thank you. Julia Ainsley, NBC.
Thank you for doing this. You said we are not done and that Combs did not do this alone. Do you foresee that there could be other charges related to this case?
I'm not taking anything off the table.
Janet Fisher, Newsday.
What's the difference between the sex trafficking and promoting travel for the purpose of prostitution?
Well, there are different crimes with different elements. I don't think we should get into the nitty-gritty of the legal discussion right now, but the sex trafficking, we believe, they're all serious offenses, but the sex trafficking conduct carries some significant penalties, and we are gratified that we were able to bring that charge.
Is one more coercive than the other?
I'm not going to be able to get into that, but you can look it up, and yes, sex trafficking, especially when it involves coercion or force, is a very serious crime, and it carries significant penalties.
Good afternoon, Darla Miles, ABC7 New York. Thank you for this press conference and for the details. 2 questions. In context of this indictment and the information that was presented to the grand jury, are you able to clarify the number of victims? It's mentioned plural in the indictment, but can you specify the number of victims just for this particular indictment? And secondly, can you provide details about the alleged arson?
Unfortunately, I'm not able to provide either. The number of victims, you are correct. We are intentional in saying multiple. The details of the arson incident are limited to what we have in the indictment and also the detention letter that we filed, which contains more details than the indictment does at various points. But we don't have anything more beyond that. Next question.
Lynn Tran, CNN.
Are any of his accomplices or associates under investigation? And additionally, could he face any more charges?
So the investigation is ongoing. That means both as to him and to anyone else who we believe committed the crime with him. Next question.
Juliet Papa.
Hi, good morning from 1010 Wins. Any indication that some of the women or victims here were imprisoned in his residences, and did he have locations where he kept them, and were not allowed to leave? And also, he's indicted here, although there were searches and raids in LA, Miami. Why in New York?
Well, I'm biased. I'm the U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York. I think that we have an outstanding track record of bringing some of the most impactful, sprawling, complex, difficult sex trafficking, human trafficking, labor trafficking, you name it. The Southern District of New York can do it, and so we're very proud of that. And so the scope and complexity of this investigation isn't something that we ran from. It's something that we embrace, and we will continue to do that. As to your question about whether he imprisoned anyone, all I can say is that, I mentioned this March 2016 incident where something was caught on video where a victim was attempting to flee, and there was violence that was associated with it.
Was that at the residence or a hotel?
That was at a hotel.
Matthew Lee, Inner City Press.
Thanks a lot. Does your office intend to seek remand, or are you reaching a bail package? And if you're willing, how would you contrast this with the R. Kelly case in EDNY in terms of the elements? Thanks.
So we will be seeking detention. We have filed a letter laying out our reasoning for seeking pretrial detention. I'm not going to be able to expand beyond what's in the letter, but it contains all of the reasoning, and it contains the law as well. There is a presumption of detention in a case like this, and we think that's warranted.
John Anise, New York Daily News.
Thank you. I was hoping to get some more detail about the searches of his residence, the guns, the
baby oil,
lubricant, and the videos. Where were they found amongst his residence? Were they all scattered around the houses in one place? I kind of wanted to just get a better picture of how that stuff was found.
Well, look, I think that some of the details that you're seeking are in the detention letter. So, for instance, some of the AR-15s, 2 of the 3 defaced AR-15s were found in his bedroom closet in Miami, broken down into parts, along with magazines, with ammunition loaded in them. So some of that detail is in the detention letter. Beyond that, I'm not going to be able to get into where other items were stored.
Ben Kochman, Post.
Hey, thanks for doing this. Your office was the office that had been prosecuting Jeffrey Epstein before he died in custody. I have not read your detention memo yet. It's the first thing I'm going to do after this ends. But does the memo address, or is your office concerned with Combs' safety in custody, given what happened with Epstein?
Wow. So we are concerned with anyone's safety whenever they are detained prior to trial. It's part of our obligations to keep people safe as well. It's part of the criminal justice system. So, but I do not draw any sort of connection between Jeffrey Epstein's suicide and what may or may not happen to any other defendant while they are detained pre-trial. And of course, the decision whether to detain the defendant will be up to a judge. Our position is that pretrial detention is warranted under the law and based on the facts of this case, and I'll leave it at that.
Are some of the prosecutors on this case some of the same prosecutors that had been handling that, or that worked on the Maxwell case?
Great question.
So I'm not going to get into the staffing. I will say that this team, this group of AUSAs, this incredible group has been working on this case around the clock, and they've had their hands full. Next question.
Gus Rosendale, NBC News.
Good morning, sir. Combs' attorney said that his client has been cooperative with investigators. He said that this morning. I was wondering if you would have a reaction to that.
Let me just say this. I think that generally with increasing frequency, the word cooperative or cooperating has taken on tremendous elasticity and it no longer really bears any relation to what the word means when we use it in a very specific context. So responding to lawful process and the like does not qualify as cooperation when we use that term here.
Mike Sisak, AP.
Thanks. To that end, was there any discussion of Mr. Combs surrendering? I understand he was taken into custody at a hotel in Manhattan last night, and maybe that wasn't the plan. Can you elaborate on how that came about and why that was?
I'm not going to be able to get into any sort of operational details as to how he was taken into custody and when. He is in custody right now. He will be appearing in court later today.
Was there any discussion of him surrendering, given they claim he's cooperating?
I'm not going to be able to get into law enforcement tactics or operations.
Got it.
Well, I can't get into the charging decision. It is very meaningful to us that weapons were possessed, as we allege in the indictment. Part of the reason why this conduct was so pervasive and harmful was because victims and others didn't necessarily feel comfortable denying him his wishes, as we allege, because of the presence of firearms. I should leave it there.
Thanks. Last question, Jacob Shamison.
Jacob Shamsian, Business Insider. Thank you. Given that he's the sole defendant in this case and that you allege he's part of a conspiracy that involves members of his companies, do you anticipate a superseding indictment that bring allegations against other members of his companies or other co-conspirators as well?
I can't take anything off the table. Anything is possible. Our investigation is very active and ongoing. And I think a lot of you who cover this office know that when we say such things, that developments are certainly foreseeable, but I cannot predict them sitting here today. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. What part of his business empire is exposed forfeiture?
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, people. Great. So that is the official press conference. I do know there was an additional, area that was set up outside. Not too sure if, maybe any other authorities will get to this spot, that they'll be able to conduct something meaningful. Maybe some other questions could be asked. Yeah, I guess whoever the AP reporter is, they're just like, they only showed this one thing. Now, here's the thing, chat. I do have the documents here for you. It's actually slow to be updated, I guess, because he hasn't appeared in court yet, which I thought he actually did, but he hasn't. They kind of unsealed it, but not officially, where it's fully in the system where you can look up any federal case. So it's not in the site that I usually use, but the documents are available, right? I think directly through the clerk. We're going to read the whole indictment. I do want to skip ahead, and this is kind of jumping ahead here because I think I'm going off my train of thought. The U.S. attorney said repeatedly there's certain things, more details that might not be in the indictment that's in the memo for detention. So essentially, there's a bunch of documents filed. Okay, here's the initial indictment, but we're also filing a memo for detention, hoping that the judge or the magistrate judge says, hey, we're going to deny bond, at least at this time, until, we'll reconsider maybe at a different point. I have that document, and before we do get into the indictment, I do want to explore the possibility of, could Diddy get out on bail, right? And also, it's going to give us some more details about what they're using And what you're going to realize is, if I think by now, either Cassie or the feds with Cassie leaked that video, because that video of Diddy beating Cassie in that hotel, it's actually it's referenced in a detention memo and the indictment. Okay? So let's do the math here. Like, it's clear the feds probably played a nasty game with Diddy. Probably was also trying to encourage more witnesses to come forward, right? Because when people seen that video, everybody backed up off Diddy, like, oh shit, never mind, it's not a witch hunt. This shit's true. So it kind of looks like, hold on. No, this is the wrong thing I pulled up. Sorry. What the fuck? Oh, I didn't put it on screen yet. Give me 1 second. Did I send the right thing? Give me 1 second. So what I'm about to put up on screen is the detention memo. And this detention memo is supplementary to the indictment that essentially is going to spell out a few things that the prosecutor believes should keep Diddy in jail. Right? Here we go.
The audio is all of my detailed audio as it was talking.
Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna keep an eye on this to see if they go outside or there's more stuff. I'm pretty sure. Let's go to another outlet. Let's go to CNN or something like that. CNN. I imagine they would have like a live stream going on. Maybe not. I guess only AP has it right now. Let me just search Diddy. I just want to see if anyone else is doing some type of. Yeah, AP's pretty much point on this. Cool. All right, so we'll keep this going on in the background. I'm hoping they go outside that we can hear some more information. Here's the thing, though. So this was filed. This is a detention memo for Sean Combs, which means this is the prosecutors' attempt to try to make sure he's denied bail. Now, we went over this last night. Factors in determining bail, federal court. We came up with a list, right? And the list was seen as the defendant's flight risk, defendant's criminal history, severity of the alleged crime, defendant's ties to the community, employment status and financial resources, mental health and substance abuse history. There's other things that we're going to come into, the defendant's risk of reoffending, history of appearing in court, a lot of things, okay? Potential danger to the community or specific individuals, okay. Now, let's read this letter. It's 16 pages, right? It's actually longer than the indictment. So it says, Dear Judge, the defendant, Sean Diddy Combs, was taken into custody this morning after a grand jury sitting in this district returned a 3-count indictment charging him with crimes related to decades-long pattern of physical and sexual violence against multiple victims. His use of force, threats, coercion, to enact his will, protect his reputation, to fulfill his sexual desires. That's going to be the nastiest and creepiest part of it, because they kind of literally just spell out Diddy as a guy using millions of dollars to get his fix sexually. Like just some deranged, decrepit type of creep who just needed by any means necessary to nut. You know what I mean? Which is, come on, right? The government respectfully submits this letter in anticipation of the defendant's appearance before this court later today and in support of the government's request for the defendant's detention pending trial. As set forth below, there is no condition or combination of conditions that will reasonably assure the appearance of the defendant as required and the safety of others and the community. Not to mention the integrity of the proceedings. As reflected by the gravity of the charges in the indictment, the defendant is dangerous and poses an ongoing threat to the safety of the community. If released, he remains a serious flight risk, despite the conditions offered by his counsel. By the way, clearly, they anticipate that Diddy's counsel offered something. So we're going to try to find what Diddy's counsel offered. Or maybe, I don't know if they would go with an official offering, but they probably just can make it a case that, he's not a flight risk. He'll show up to court. He'll stay in New York or some shit like that, right? We'll see if we can find that document. All right. Most glaringly, the defendant also poses a significant risk to obstructing justice. Indeed, as set forth below, during the course of the charged conduct, which, by the way, we're going to get to that. I'll make a little note of it. I know a lot of people are saying, is he going to be charged for things he did in the 90s? By the way, one of these sex situations, right, with a 17-year-old, which I think a lot of people thought that was like the We talked about it last time, me and Myron. Textbook case of sex trafficking, right? You flew a 17-year-old underage girl from Pontiac, Michigan, to New York by your private jet, and supposedly she had sex with one of your employees there, and then you later on sex trafficking, right? Except we're gonna read the indictment. The indictment actually says they only started the racketeering conspiracy from 2008. So what he did in the 90s, including maybe the murder of Tupac Shakur, if he was ever involved, doesn't seem to be part of this indictment. Okay, so that's also very important to know for people who are, thinking about that, right? Okay, cool. This is going to be the thing that might keep him in jail. He has already tried to obstruct the government's investigation, repeatedly contacting victims and witnesses, feeding them false narratives of events, and as described in detail, there are simply no conditions that would ensure the defendant's efforts to obstruct and tamper witnesses will stop. The defendant, therefore, cannot overcome the statutory presumption in favor of detention. The court should order him detained. Okay? On September 17, 2024, an indictment returned by the federal grand jury. Okay. We're not trying to read the same thing twice. Okay, cool. Sex trafficking and abuse. Okay, most of this is gonna be in the indictment. So we'll just go through the indictment for that. What we should probably care about, and here we see the firearms, right? Even though I don't think that he was charged with a firearm crime, but the mere fact that, there's illegal firearms around while other criminal activities is alleged to have been going on, big problem, which the judge might factor in, right? Basically saying this guy is having an arsenal of illegal weapons while he's doing illegal shit, right? 59 rounds of .223 ammunition seized from his LA home. Obviously, that would be illegal. I don't know what the magazine capacity is in LA, but definitely you can't have no 59 rounds, okay? Not no damn drum, okay? In addition, 6 legally, okay, so he did have more guns. 6 legal purchased guns with serial numbers. Some were stored in gun safes, were recovered. So they're saying they were legal guns, but clearly they're not mentioning the legal guns. They only show the illegal guns. Although these particular guns, both the legal and illegal firearms, were seized, their presence in the defendant's homes demonstrates the defendant has access to them, surrounds himself with both guns and ammunition. Likewise, if the defendant were personally restrained by the court from obtaining new firearms himself, he could retain access to them through others. In sum, the defendant's regular use of violence and threats of violence, as well as coercion described above, against the victims and others, fostered a culture of fear in which these individuals believed they were unable to reject the defendant's demands without subjecting themselves to physical violence or other abuse. Now, this is the important part. Him supposedly bribing witnesses and supposedly interfering, right? Throughout the time of the period charged in the indictment, when the defendant faced the possibility that his violent and criminal conduct could become public, the defendant and other members of the associates of the enterprise pressured witnesses and victims to not report what they saw or heard to law enforcement, or to otherwise conceal the criminal conduct. For example, as noted in March 2016, that's the Cassie video we all seen, the defendant was captured on video surveillance, striking and kicking and dragging a woman in a public area of a hotel in an apparent attempt to prevent her from leaving a freak off. When a member of the hotel security staff intervened, the defendant attempted to offer the security staff a stack of cash to ensure silence after the security guard refused the bribe, and after coordination between the defendant and his employees, the defendant's staff contacted other members of the hotel security. At the same time, the staff members were in close communication with the victim of the assault as well, all in an effort to cover up the defendant's assault and prevent the incident from being publicly disclosed. Within days of the incident, the surveillance video disappeared from the hotel's server. So who had if it disappeared from the server, who had the video? Because we've seen it now. Okay. Similarly, throughout the period charged in the indictment, members and associates of the enterprise have reached out to multiple victims on behalf of the defendant to convince them not to report the defendant's abuse. Most recently, in 2023, immediately following the public allegations of a certain defendant's crimes, including his physical and sexual abuse of women, the defendants and other members of the enterprise made repeated phone calls to victims and witnesses, during which they provided victims and witnesses with false narratives of events in an apparent effort to conceal the defendant's crimes. So basically, last year, Diddy was ringing up the phone, calling people who could be victims. On at least 2 occasions, the defendant recorded those calls. Oh, wow. He recorded the calls on a co-conspirator. Ooh, this is going to be big. It says a co-conspirator. Now, when you hear co-conspirator in an indictment, it doesn't mean they're going to be charged, because sometimes there is unindicted co-conspirators. But they're basically saying whoever this person is was helping Diddy cover up crimes. They're not a victim, okay? Because, everybody's going to be like, I was only fucking them guys because Diddy told me to. Or I only beat up that guy because Diddy told me to. I wasn't doing it because I wanted to. Diddy threatened me. He was going to kill me, so I had to go not kill them, but beat that person up, right? But they're saying this person is a co-conspirator. So this person was cognizantly helping Diddy. Anyway, thereby attempting to obscure his involvement in the obstruction. So the government is investigation is ongoing. While the indictment against the defendant was on seal today, the investigation into his and other co-conspirators' conduct is active and ongoing. As a result of that ongoing investigation, as well as the defendant's charged conduct outlined above, including obstruction of justice and witness tampering, the government is limited in its ability to fully set forth all known details of his criminal conduct, including details of certain witness testimony. So they're saying there's witnesses who have told them about methods and means that Diddy has taken to try to cover up his crimes that they don't want to put right now in his detention letter, but probably is still an active part of the investigation they got going on and probably will be in the case, right? To the extent that the court has additional questions about the charged offenses or the charged offense conduct or any other information set forth herein, the government is prepared to proffer additional information on an ex parte basis. Wow. That's huge. We got to get a lawyer on here. I got to hit up Bradford Cohen. We need the top legal minds to break this down. I'm only limited in certain scope of what I could break down and interpret for you guys. Okay. Now, we all know from the Young Thug YSL case, an ex parte hearing or communication means ex parte means without a party. And in the court system, you have the prosecutor, the defense, and the neutral arbiter, which is the judge. So any conversations or meetings that excludes one of those people is considered ex parte. So it's apparent that the prosecutor is saying, we have more information about some witness testimony that we know we're not going to call anyone snitches here, because these are potential female victims. Again, this ain't a gang case, so there's no snitches, let's be honest, right? These victims, or alleged victims, they probably are saying shit, either actively working or whoever knows what it is. And basically they're telling the judge, we'll tell you on the side what the depth, or if you have questions about, some of these things we're alleging, because we're not saying everything because our investigation is ongoing, we'll say it in an ex parte context. And again, unlike the the Young Thug case, this ex parte communication would not be seen and deemed as, as something that, is it has some Brady element, which means, you need to disclose to the other side, because this is about bail and the conditions of bail and what could be considered isn't the same level of, transparency as what you would expect in a trial. Now, if this was trial, it'd be very different, but this is just on bail. They're just saying, don't get this nigga bail. If you want to know why, we laid out some general shit. If you want to know the specifics, we'll come into your chambers or we'll do a sidebar. We'll tell you then. But don't tell Diddy, because that's probably, crucial to our current investigation, and we probably got more charges or maybe a superseding indictment. So that makes sense. So they start arguing some applicable law. They're using a Bail Reform Act, 18 USC, whatever. And they're basically just outlining that there is a lot of case law that matches up and actually co-signs their idea that Diddy should not be let out on bond. So let's go back to last night. We're talking to Myron. And when we're talking to him, primarily we said, well, look like Diddy's cooperative. And I said, at what point do you think this become uncooperative. And I mean uncooperative like he's like, I'm not going to, and cooperative doesn't mean he's snitching, right? It just means they're communicating. Hey, we are investigating you, just to let you know. Hey, don't go too far. Hey, this grand jury proceeding might be wrapping up soon. Don't make it hard for us to find you. We shouldn't have to dispatch the marshals to come look for you under a rock. He's like, no, I'm not running. I'll come to New York. I'll make myself readily available. Maybe they've sat in for an interview session or two. Who knows? Here's the thing. Again, no matter how cooperative he's been, the prosecutors are still taking the stance. Yeah, he came to New York. Yeah, he's been quote unquote cooperative, but we still don't think he should be let out on bail. Keep in mind, all these cooperative things were to probably kind of have the prosecutors say to the judge, like, hey, he has been cooperative. We're going to, of course, put up a motion to oppose bail, but we're not going to go too hard. It looked like they're going pretty hard. And they're pretty much going as hard as saying, yo, he's trying to fuck up additional investigations we got going on. So definitely lock him up, right? So they go with dangerousness. They say he's charged with serious and violent crimes. It's charged in the indictment. I'm about to have to get some water. Can't lose my voice. Got like 9 hours to go. I got water here. Okay. So it says, as charged in the indictment, the defendant has physical and sexually abused women and others for the better part of 2 decades. Now, that's the interesting part because the indictment starts in, the RICO part of it starts in 2008 as they're looking at it. But they're saying for a better part of 2 decades. Well, actually, that's the better part. So since 2018, that'll be 16 years, right? Yeah, better part. Okay, cool. Better part of 2 decades, the sex trafficking charge based on the defendant's abusive conduct, count 2, carries with it a presumption of detention. Wow. And they're citing direct statutes here. And detention is particularly supported by the facts of the case. Since at least 2008, the defendant has engaged in serious acts of violence, including force and coercing women to participate in sexual activity, including sex acts with commercial sex workers. I'm wondering if the sex workers, I'm guessing so, right? There got to be a couple sex workers that are, witnesses, like are working, right? Like, yo, we're going to testify like Diddy paid us to fuck Cassie. They could describe the room. The shit smelled like KY jelly and a honey pack. It was no condoms. Niggas just had a cock ring. And the nigga was just in the corner with a fucking toothpick in his mouth, recording like he thought he was like on some, Steven Spielberg shit, and he was stroking his fucking cock, but he wasn't looking at Cassie, he was looking at me. Like, I'm pretty sure there's gonna be some sex workers that probably gonna say some shit like that, right? All right. Commercial sex workers by use of physical force, financial pressure, emotional abuse, narcotics. These acts described above, they were referred to as freak-offs, among other names, and involved orchestrated sexual performances facilitated through drug use that sometimes lasted days at a time. Also, you're going to realize that they also say, and I'm skipping ahead here, but I'm just giving you a little bit of notice, they will eventually say that Diddy is facing a mandatory minimum, right? A mandatory minimum. And give me 1 second here. I just want to click back on this to see what's going on. Diddy is facing a mandatory minimum. Okay, nothing has happened out here. Cool. All right, yeah. He's facing a mandatory minimum of 15 years all the way to life. So it is very, very much possible that Diddy, I know last night people said I was trumping up, what he's facing, but I'll even go to it in this detention memo, which, again, that's going to be part of why they're going to want to detain someone, saying, hey, yo, this guy is facing being incarcerated for the rest of his life. Like, I'll scroll down. It says 15 years. Let's see. Look, the risk of flight. Nor can a defendant overcome the presumption that he's a risk of flight. The crimes the defendant is charged with carry significant penalties, including a mandatory minimum sentence of 15 years imprisonment and a statutory maximum of life imprisonment. Now, we all know how it works on a federal level. If you get convicted on a federal level, there is only pretty much one way. you could go below what they have imposed as a mandatory minimum. And you got to get that 5K1 letter. You got to be snitching, right? Now, granted, if we're thinking that, well, they kind of levy him to be the head of this enterprise, so who could he snitch on? So if he can't snitch, if he gets found guilty on these things, right, even through a plea bargain deal, that's 15 years, right? 15 years, right? And again, remember, this is a mandatory minimum, which is why people are definitely scared of the feds, right? Like they have imposed a lot of mandatory minimums that it doesn't really give to the judge discretion in what they think you should get. These are hard line mandatory minimums that could only be bypassed for a very small handful of reasons. One, the biggest and the most known one is snitching, which is if a prosecutor writes what's called a 5K1 letter on your behalf at sentencing, it tells the judge you have cooperated, snitched, and that they could now bypass the mandatory minimum. Okay? Again, we don't think that's going to be applicable here for Diddy. Who can he tell on? What is he going to tell on? Like some other mogul? Right? Like, come on. We don't even see that happening. But maybe it's possible. But, let's be realistic, right? So if Diddy's facing minimum 15 years, minimum. How old is Diddy right now? By the way, I'm keeping an eye on this. How old is Diddy? 54. In 15 years, he'd be, obviously you'd have to serve 85% federally. So 85% of 15 years, 85%, it would be 8.5 if it's 10. So if it's 8.5, if it's 10, it would be 4.25. So it's about 12, 13 years. Yeah, 13 years actually. So yeah, 85% is 13 years about. Yeah, so even if that's the case, again, obviously I'm going to worst case scenario because who knows? Maybe he beats the case, right? Maybe he beats the case. Anything can happen. But if he gets a mandatory minimum, 15 years, he's 54, you get out in 13 years, he'll be 67, right? Like, could you get out at 67, order another batch of baby oil and cock rings and, get the free calls back popping at, 69 or 67 or whatever? Maybe, right? I don't know if the money's going to be hitting the same, right? I think the financial discussion, I'm going to see if I could, there's a few people I want to get on. For a criminal level, I want to get on Bradford Cohen. I'm gonna contact him and make sure I try to get him on today or maybe tomorrow. Bradford Cohen, let me see if I can break it down. I would love for him. I know he's probably bogged down today. And also he's not like just a media guy. He's a actual attorney, so he got his own cases. But let me hit him up. I would love for him to kind of break this down. I would love for him to break this down. I would also like for maybe an attorney or, I don't know if it's a financial expert I should probably go to. We got to figure out how Diddy, what would be the advisable thing to do if you're Diddy, a guy with allegedly a net worth of hundreds of millions of dollars, now facing life imprisonment. Also, you have your financial opportunities cut. Obviously, he's selling a couple of homes. He's liquidating a few things. But how does this work out financially? By the way, I'll show you this, which we'll get to it in the indictment. Where's the indictment? So this is a detention memo. We got the indictment here. By the way, let me just keep looking over here to make sure nothing's going on. All right. We see a little bit of movement here. These are the federal officers right here. So we're waiting for somebody to get on this mic. Pause. No Diddy. Here's the indictment. What you're going to see in the indictment, and I know I'm all over the place, but I hope you're following a little bit. The government is talking about forfeiture, and they're also talking about his assets, and they're talking about that, hey, he's probably going to owe some damages. And they're also pushing forth to say he could forfeit some assets if he can't pay it, or if he's transferred. I'll read it real quick. Forfeiture allegations. It says as a result of committing these offenses, they're saying according to he should forfeit to the United States pursuant to Title 18, right? Any interests that the defendant acquired or maintained in violation of Title 18, right? Which means any and all interest in securities of, claims against, and property or contractual rights of any affording a source of influence, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Let me try to get to layman's terms. Okay. You should forfeit any. Look, here we go. According to Title 18, forfeit any and all property, real and personal, involved in, used. So they're saying if you had a freak off at your $60 million crib, we want to put that for a Title 18 forfeiture clause that the judge could say you forfeit that property because you used it for illicit crimes. By the way, we see this obviously with drug dealing, right? So like if you got a car, you got a Charger, and you're using the fucking Charger to transfer, move coke around the U.S., you know what I mean? At times, if they feel like there's damages, or if you had a bando, right? Like you use your grandma's house as the stash house, they might go for forfeiture to get to own your grandma's house because that's where the drugs was being stored. And they're saying that place was being used as, a place to continue this either, criminal conspiracy or obviously to continue crime. So they are looking forward to possibly try to either, and you're going to see, they're going to say, we want maybe some injunctive shit to stop any property sales, that he don't try to liquidate shit, or, Diddy might be like, yo, I'm about to put everything in my daughter's name or my mama's name. And they're trying to stop that too. Look. So real or personal involved in or using or intended for the use to commit or facilitate the commission of said offenses, and any property traceable to such, any and all property traceable to such property, and in all property, real and personal, blah, blah, blah. Are they saying the same thing like twice? Okay. Then they said, and in all property constituting or derived from the proceeds obtained. They're saying that if he made money from freak-offs and bought a spot, they want that too. All right? They're using Title 18 a lot. Right? Cool. If we get to here, they says if any of the above forfeitable property, so they're going at him for real estate as an act of, if any of the above described forfeitable property as a result of any act or omission of the defendant cannot be located upon the exercise of due diligence, has been transferred or sold to or deposited with a third person, has been placed beyond the jurisdiction of the court, has been substantially diminished in value, or has been commingled with other property which cannot be subdivided without difficulty, it's in the intent of the United States to seek forfeiture of the property of the defendant up to the value of the forfeitable property. So basically, if they're like, you have a property that has 5 other people's names and then we can't really subdivide it and get whatever interest out of it we need, we could try to get that interest from somewhere else, which, shit, they're trying to cook this nigga, bro. God damn. Again, we're still waiting. This is live outside of the courthouse. I don't know exactly who we're waiting for, but we do see the mic set up here. I don't think the U.S. Attorney Office would be out here. No, not the office. I don't think the U.S. Attorney, Damian Williams, would come out here and do the same thing he just did in there. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, that's a top dog that just spoke, so. He showed the women, and we all seen the women that was standing next to him, right? Some of these people supposedly are the prosecutors. Like, and it's very important to note. If these are the people who are going to be working on the case, a bunch of white women coming out, with all due respect. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. Once I seen this shit, I said, damn. If you charged with sex trafficking, the last 6 people or 7 people, no, 6 people you want to see is a pregnant Becky, a old Karen, and these are the 4 people right here. These are the worst. You don't want to see them. Hell no. Cooked. Cooked. You got to realize, and he said it. So, by the way, if you think this U.S. attorney, just like Fonnie Willis, will not be in court, who you're going to see in court are these people. You get what I'm saying? Yeah, this nigga, he just came for the press conference, chuck his deuce up, you know what I mean, get his clout points and level up in his ascension to, hopefully he probably is trying to get to U.S. Attorney General or some shit, right? But, yeah, he's Like, all right, I'm gonna be the nigga who get Diddy. All right, nigga, see y'all. But these white women are gonna be prosecuting and be involved in dealing with this case. And these Caucasians right here spells nothing but fucking trouble, man. Okay? All right, they're still waiting. They're still setting up mics. We don't know for what. Do not know for what. But something clearly is gonna happen here. Okay? Oh, wow. Wow. Give me 1 second, by the way. Ooh. I was looking on the other screen at the Rich Homie Quam thing. It's actually about 30,000 people watching that. All right. Cool. Let me see if there's any more other live things before I kind of delve into the indictment. Once again, we do have the indictment. It's 14 pages. We're going to read through this, and then we're going to get back to the detention letter. Then hopefully I could bring on a few experts on here to help assist and just other people to react. Oh, shit. Oh, wow. My man Bradford Cohen just hit me. He said, yo, I was just on Law and Crimes talking about this. I'm pretty sure he'll come on here, show us some love as well. But let's see what he just talked about on Law and Crimes, if that was a thing. Let's see, Law and Crimes. An hour ago. I don't know if this was live. Was it live? No, we got to go see what Bradford Cohen said. Got to see what my man says. Okay. Give me a second. Are they live with it? Okay. All right. Let's see if we can find. No, that's just a stream. Oh, okay. Here we go.
Yeah, that's a serious.
Here we go.
They've also highlighted how he allegedly obstructed justice and tried to influence witnesses who were coming forward during the course of this investigation. So there is clear.
Oh, actually, we're going to go back. So this is my man Bradford Cohen here. Good. Perfect. Let's see what he got going on. Sorry, Chad.
Nope.
All those places that don't have extradition.
No conditions that would ensure that the defendant's effort to obstruct and tamper with witnesses will stop. The defendant, therefore, cannot overcome the statutory presumption in favor of detention. Now, one of the things they highlight later on, Bradford, is that he is facing charges, I was correct, a minimum of 15 years in prison to potentially life in prison. Your thoughts on the government's position here?
This is normally pretty common, and I called this a while ago that I don't think they would be agreeing to a bond. I knew that they wouldn't be agreeing to a bond because of the situation, even as it unfolded yesterday. When you have an individual that's arrested at his home.
By the way, I don't know who sent in that donation. Someone said check 50 Cent's page. I don't see him posting anything. I'll check his story. 50 is unusually quiet. I'm going to be very honest. And matter of fact, 50 Cent just posted something. Has nothing to do with Diddy or the indictment. So he just, I don't think so, right? He posted picture and he says, here I am keeping good company with Drew Barrymore and I don't, oh, my bad. Okay, never mind. And I don't have 100 bottles of lube at the house. But he's not really taking the biggest, like this is the day you would think he's the most happiest in the world. Diddy's gotten indicted. You know what I think it is? I think, and I could be wrong. We'll see how 50 plays this. Number two things. 50's going into a new path in his career. He's getting shown a lot of love culturally, but even from place like Louisiana, Shreveport, they're showing him a lot of love. I don't think he want to go there on some petty, super toxic shit. I think he wants to show that he's a little bit mature, grown up, and maybe that's scaling back some of the Instagram antics. But still, 50 usually never changes, so I'm not banking on that being a thing. The other thing I would say why he hasn't made 20 posts about Diddy so far is potentially, especially after we seen last week, because he didn't comment on this either. His baby mama, who he was calling little sex worker, Daphne Joy, she was the subject of a subpoena with him for the same time period, 2008 till present, that Diddy's actually indicted in, 2008 till present. So maybe, who knows, maybe his baby mama is either a witness or is either going to be a listed co-conspirator. And I would imagine, at some point, 50 got to cut the bullshit, because no matter, even if you're getting petty with your baby moms for fucking Diddy, because we know that's the real thing, right? You don't want your baby moms fucking your op, right? You have to remember that's the mother of your child, and your son does care about that person. So maybe that's one of the reasons he hasn't gone completely crazy, because maybe the mom is tied up in this thing. Again, we don't know about any co-conspirators. They haven't been named, even though they have been just referenced, like co-conspirator, but we haven't seen the names. And we don't know if they'll be indicted or not, okay? Anyway, let's get back to this real quick.
Home or arrested wherever he is at night, and they want to hold him overnight until the next day for a hearing. Generally speaking, you don't have an agreement for a bond. If you had an agreement for a bond, there's usually a surrender date. You have a quick hearing in front of a judge. There are things that take place that are very easy to do and easy to breeze through the system. And this
Everyone knows every time Diddy's name comes up in something, it's always some freaky issue by the sea, man. Now, in what's new, you feel me? Now, new information's coming out. Diddy lost a lawsuit where he essentially owes $100-something million. That person, I'm not gonna lie, bro, you're never seeing that money. It's sad to say. You're never ever seeing that money ever. Yeah. Is the diddler. You're never seeing that money. Got some of the best lawyers in the world. He's a billionaire. Still supposedly. You feel me? He's liquidating his assets now. Selling houses and doing all that. But bro, you're not seeing any money. Like Diddy's the only reason he won the case because Diddy just never went to court. That's it. But it's your boy Big Act News. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and let me know how you guys feel about everything. And I'm out.